Sunday, the 21st day of August, 2011. We're going to be live here for the next 2 hours. Coming up at around 20 after, I'm going to present a live report to you breaking down the fact that the military-industrial complex, itself owned by offshore banks, has not just conquered most of the world, but is also trying to conquer free humanity, trying to eradicate the family, trying to eradicate all forms of independence, which this corporate Borg sees as a threat to its absolute eternal domination over humanity, what the social engineers now for over 80 years have called the final revolution against humanity. This is the control freak revolution. Obviously, the reports have gotten a lot of attention up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Ron Paul, they're setting the stage for violence in this country. That is one of the headlines. Robert Wanek, who's reported for Infowars.com, also a great reporter with We Are Change Minnesota, did a video interview with Ron Paul, and they said, are we in danger with these FEMA-camps, this Emergency Centers Establishment Act? And Ron Paul said, absolutely. That's what the establishment wants. They want to create violence. That's their plan. Very, very powerful information. So I thought that I would just give you a snapshot look at FEMA camps in this country. And remember, we already have the biggest prison population in the world. We already have a military budget bigger than all other governments combined. We have congressional reports of plans to expand the already existing internment facilities. Now the mainstream media is reporting on this more, but saying, oh, they're just now deciding to get ready for this because of the Depression, or the greatest recession, as Geithner has called it. Well, we've told you for over 16 years now, but intensely for 10, that with the end of the Glass-Steagall Act and the derivatives bubble, that this was their plan. So they're economically destroying us, posing as our saviors, and as society begins to break down and unravel, many people are going to beg for the military to be used. The military will be used. They will do their job and shut down the rioting. Then there'll be terror attacks, which are blamed on domestic groups, so the public will say, well, the Army already dealt with the rioting thugs, so it's reasonable that they're going after other troublemakers. You know, for a decade I've been laying out this scenario, and now you, of course, have seen it unfold over in England and other parts of Europe. More and more people are asking, how does Alex Jones predict the future? I don't predict the future. The past is an example of how humans operate. Then you study current activities and globalist white papers, and you know what their plan is. The question is, does the public have the courage and the will and the self-preservation instincts to face the facts, to get involved, and to turn the tide? Because knowledge of this information and the active resistance to it in the info war is what will save this republic. But we have a case of very virulent, hot tyranny breathing down our necks here. But for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and that's Ron Paul, that's Alex Jones, that's you. You are the answer to the 1984 society. You are 1776. Now, when we come back, I'm going to give you a rundown of a lot of the other big news. Then we're getting into this special report, FEMA camps in America. It is Sunday, the 21st day of August, 2011. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. I'm Alex Jones, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, Austin, Texas, blasting out on satellite, global shortwave, and I know the Sunday show, more than 60 AM and FM affiliates, #1 radio talk show streamed on the web, according to Shoutcast and other barometers. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I also come back weekdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. Okay, coming up at the start of the next segment, I've got a special report. Ron Paul addresses plans for civil unrest detention camps. That's one of the reports we filed this weekend. We have some audio and videotape with Ron Paul discussing the FEMA camps. That's posted up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Ron Paul, they're setting the stage for violence in this country. Asked by Infowars correspondent Robert Wanek on video if he was concerned about the National Emergency Centers Establishment Act, or that officially funds the FEMA camps, and if there was a danger of Americans being held in the camps for martial law. Ron Paul responded, yeah, that's their goal. They're setting up the stage for violence in this country. No doubt about it, responded Paul. And so I wanted to go over why this is being established and set up, A, and B, how it's going to be rolled out. And we have in this article, mainstream news this week going, there are emergency centers for you because of the recession and the depression. We just now thought of this. You see, tyrants can't implode societies to consolidate control and to enrich themselves without having a secret police, without having a red terror, without having a black uniformed, jackbooted enforcement system. These are absolutely cold-blooded multinational corporations that compete with each other at a very vicious level. They're absolutely ruthless. And our naivete has allowed this to unfold. So I'm going to get into the history of the development of internment camps for Japanese Americans, Italian Americans, German Americans, hundreds of thousands that were held. Their land, by the way, taken. Many Italians, Germans, and Japanese, even though their sons were serving in the military, you could get out of the camp if you served in the military. They had their fishing boats taken, their property. Some of the most valuable areas of San Francisco. A lot of folks, of course, were tortured to death in the camps here in the United States. So you need to understand that when you don't have a Bill of Rights and Constitution, it turns loose great evil. And we already have the largest prison population in the world, not per capita. No, we have more than China with 1.5 billion people. We're only 310 million. And it's only getting worse. See, we have a predatory economy now. We don't have a free market. It's being gobbled up by the predatory, insider, crony capitalist system that is only capitalist in name, where insiders operate and totally rule society. So that report is coming up, and then I'll get into your calls and more detail on the other news we have here in front of us. Speaking of crony capitalism, I remember the Drudge Report linked to our articles back in February, back on February 4th, and it became a big national news story and was discussed on the Sunday news shows, and it was the first time I've ever had the White House actually address us and attack this radio show and say that we're insane liars. Remember this headline from February 4th? Obama agenda to bankrupt power plants triggers blackouts. Remember the freezing weather across the U.S. and record blackouts? And then a day later, White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com report on blackouts. And you can go read the White House report. Their communications director, Dan Pfeiffer, came out and said we were completely insane. The problem was we were linking to the Texas Power Commission and others' reports. All we did was also have family that work at power plants, and I've had a lot of listeners that work at them, and I've known even under Bush, and now accelerating under Obama in the last 2.5 years, they didn't let new plants open. They shut down a lot of existing plants. There's a $3 billion plant total. You heard me, $3 billion in Corpus Christi, one of the biggest in the country, that the EPA still hasn't allowed to open in the last year. And it was the same in Kansas and Missouri and Oklahoma and California. You saw the reports with the cold weather this year that, well, people are using more heat, and we should have built more power plants because the population growing. And so we're having these blackouts. I mean, that's what the power companies said were happening. And that's what unfolded. And the reason I mentioned this story first is because it's back in the news today. This is out of the Journal Sentinel. Utilities warn of higher rates because of pollution rules. Nothing comes out of the coal power plants but water vapor and carbon dioxide that plants live off of, and then they put off oxygen. Humans exhale carbon dioxide, and Bill Gates has said humans are bad for exhaling it, part of the atmosphere of the planet, part of the symbiotic system, the carbon cycle. By the way, I covered this Friday, and some people didn't believe me, so I'm going to re-pull it out of the stack later. The London Guardian did go with the report that NASA officially has said that space aliens are going to attack the United States and the entire planet if we don't pay carbon taxes to Al Gore. That is not satire. That is not a joke. I know it's insane, but do not blame me. Do not blame me because it sounds insane. That's how dumb they think you are. There it is, London Guardian. Aliens may destroy humanity to protect other civilizations, say scientists. Rising greenhouse emissions could tip off aliens that we are rapidly expanding threat, warns a NASA report. And they say, pay money to the Rothschilds that own the big climate exchange with Al Gore. And that's who publicly owns it. Just type in Rothschilds Climate Exchange. Pay them to breathe or aliens will kill us. And the NASA report says the aliens may strike any minute. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not the conspiracy theorist for being right 99% of the time and knowing how things work, okay? All right. They're shutting down power plants all over the country. They've shut down 2 in the last decade here in Austin. One of them was a city-owned utility. Now, why would big, mega power companies like General Electric, who was given a waiver in February from their own rules that they wrote, some of their former top people run the greenhouse gas section of the EPA. Just like Monsanto runs all the major Food and Drug Administration positions, or the Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan have all the Federal Reserve honchos and Treasury secretaries. This is a mafia operation, and they're given a total waiver on all their plants. So they're building new ones. If you get them to build your plant and pay them protection money, then you are given a waiver. But the head of the Energy Department said just a few months ago, quote, massive numbers of plants will be shut down. He went on to say they're looking at shutting down over 300. Now, that's going to do 2 things. That's going to more than double, and I'm talking about the next 2 years, your power cost. You've already seen them go up, more than double. And it's going to cause rolling blackouts. We're going to be like Romania or Venezuela or Iran now. We're going to be a third world country, and your power is going to go off a lot. See, this is what dictatorships and corrupt systems are all about, is total and complete domination. They'd rather sell you less for more and only have a few insiders involved. So here is the Journal Sentinel. Utilities warn of higher rates because of pollution rules. Here is the Washington Post. Getting ready for a wave of coal plant shutdowns that provides 51% of our power. And I've got a new one here where the news breaks down new greenhouse gas rules to cause rolling blackouts. So, you know what? I'm going to finish up with how mafia government works in the next segment. Well, you saw thousands of companies get waivers from Obama from the health care. See,